Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed. And this is not a Psychiatric Secrets Revealed program. This is a Saving Savvy program talking about a review, and that's the G9X, which is the really nice compact camera from Canon. This has gotten a lot of good press, and rightly so. So this is in their enthusiast line. So what makes this an enthusiast camera? Well, it has a lot of manual controls. You can do full manual control on it, aperture priority, shutter priority. It also has a lot of the kind of standard things you'd expect in a compact camera, like automatic scene detection, and you could also select scenes from it. The image quality is pretty good because it uses a 1-inch sensor, and that's going to give you a little bit better dynamic range than a typical compact camera. But where it really shines is in the high ISO performance, which vastly outperforms most 1/2.3-inch compact cameras. In fact, I would say all of them that I'm aware of. So how does this compare to other 1-inch sensor cameras? Well, it's a little bit less expensive and it's smaller. So this sells for about $420 right now on various sites. And here's a Sony, an older Sony. This is a Sony RX100 Mark III, so they're not on the Mark V. This is about $120 more, $130 more than this camera. And you can see it is substantially thicker and it is much heavier. So this is an awesome camera, not knocking it in any way, but if you're looking for the smallest camera possible with a 1-inch sensor that's in a standard form factor, I would say this has got to be it. Now, I did a little test. I went to Christmas recently in my in-laws in Minnesota, and I brought one of my DSLRs, a Canon 7D, so a big hefty DSLR, and I brought this camera. One day I shot with the DSLR, and the other day I shot with this little guy here. What did I find? Well, of course, the DSLR, even though it's an older one, had better focusing, and it also had a little just better, a better look of the picture. That bigger sensor had a little bit better dynamic range. However, this sat in my pocket. I could pull it out easily for candid shots. I didn't even know it was there half the time. Even though it has maybe about 220 shot battery life, that was more than enough for my needs, and was much more enjoyable to use. This does not have a standard wheel on the back here. It uses the touchscreen pretty exclusively, but it has a very good implementation of the touchscreen, really making it pretty usable. And so I didn't miss not having that wheel back there, because I could not only pick focus points, but I could also do a lot of my adjustments right on the back of that screen, which is quite clear. So the lens is not the fastest in the world, but at the widest angle, it's a lens of 2.0, an f of 2.0, which is plenty wide, and you can always walk in or crop in if you have to, because this is that Sony 20 megapixel sensor. On the far end, it's about a 4.9, not super fast, but you can use that. And generally, I thought the images were sharp, maybe not quite as sharp as the Sony, because Sony probably has a little bit better lens, but certainly sharp enough for most needs. So let's take a look at a couple of pictures, and I'll show you what I mean. So this first shot here is a shot with the flash, and you can see that even though this flash is pretty small, it illuminates pretty well, not super harshly. This next shot here is handheld. This is without the flash, and this is at 1/30th of a second. Looks pretty good. If we go to this shot over here, we're at 1/60th of a second, ISO of 800. Again, f2.0 does a perfectly fine job. If we move over here to this shot here, we're now at an ISO of 1000. This is my wife. This is at 1/20th of a second handheld. Not bad, no flash, looks perfectly good. Now, one of the problems that you have, which you have with most cameras, is that even though it says that it's focused sometimes, it doesn't always seem like it's focused. So this shot said that it was in focus, and this was in automatic mode, so this wasn't even me messing around with it. Not in focus. Second shot, perfectly in focus. The great thing about this camera is that it's so small, so you can get a candid shot like this. This is without the flash at 1/30th of a second, f2.0, ISO of 200. And, no one even knew that I was taking that picture. I wasn't pulling out my big DSLR and pointing at them. Macro ability is reasonable. I'm about 5 or 6 centimeters from this little flag post holder here. This is like it's a flag post here, and it does a good job. It also has dynamic range enhancement. So this first picture is with the DR off, and you can see it's a little bit softer than when I turn the dynamic range on. You get a little more, it looks like a little more contrast. If we do the ISO ramp up, we start at 200 ISO here, perfectly good. Moving up to ISO 400, perfectly good. ISO 800, perfectly good. 1600, you're starting to see a little noise, perfectly good. So even at ISO 3200, you have an absolutely acceptable image here, perfectly fine just out of the camera. And when we go to ISO 6400, a little more noise in there, but again, perfectly fine. Amazing that you're getting this quality at this high ISO from a compact camera. Completely unheard of. I mean, most compact cameras, you'd get past ISO 400 and it'd be useless. Now I went up to the full 12,800, and you can see there's quite a bit of noise here, but I took it through a program called Noiseless, a very simple noise reduction program using just a JPEG, and although I lost some definition, it was just fine. So let me get out of that software or that program, and I'm back here. Take my glasses off. So what's the bottom line? So I think it's a really nice camera. It's a great camera if you just want to have a really high quality camera that you can stick in your pocket or in your purse and no one's going to even know that it's there. It definitely has a higher, it works better at low light situations because it does have that high ISO ability. If you like fooling around with little manual controls, you have that ability too. It is a built-in ND filter, for instance. That is pretty nice. And so, all in all, I would definitely recommend this camera. Would I recommend it over the Sonys? No, I wouldn't. I think the Sonys generally give you more camera for the money, like this tilt-up screen and a faster lens. But where do the Sonys, where does this shine? Well, the Sonys are definitely heavier. They're definitely bigger. They're definitely not as much fun to shoot with. They're just, you know, they're clumsier to shoot with for whatever reason. The interface is clumsier, but probably a little bit better images, even though it's the same size sensor. But this one, this is a winner. So if you get some time, please give my free podcast listen. It's called Psychiatric Secrets, and you can find it on iTunes. And it has both myself, I'm a psychiatrist, and my wife, she's a clinical psychologist. We talk about current events, we talk about mental health issues, we talk about wellness, we talk about whatever we feel like talking about. And since we have different points of view, since she's a psychologist and I'm a psychiatrist, we can you can maybe hear that. And it's usually broadcast on the first Sunday of the month, but there's over 170, maybe even 180 episodes up, so there's plenty to choose from. The other thing that I'm doing is I have an experimental blog called drmikekuna.com. That's DRMIKEKUNA.com. It's just really a writing experiment. I'm trying to just write whatever I'm thinking at the moment and really putting it out in a public forum, which forces me to be a little more honest about feelings and things and take some risks. So want to learn more about me, you can read that blog. Other than that, have a great day. And please subscribe, and please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Bye-bye.